Okay. Wednesday edition of the After Show. Got Wake and Justice with you. Week over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Wednesday's Child is full of whoa.
Yes.
Wednesdays on the After Show. We were going to call it Germanic Mercury, but you'll have to read some classical academe to be able to discern what the hell I'm talking about.
Yep.
Hey, with 58% of the GOP thinking or insisting that a college education is bad for America, who's going to ever hear about Germanic Mercury anymore?
Right.
Yeah. I feel like the Edward G. Robinson character in Soylent Green. Fancy that. Speaking of that, how are you doing, Wink?
Oh, not bad. You got to love Soylent Green. There ain't no doubt about that.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Classic. It's 81 degrees here in New York, 21, so we're in the 80s already. So, nice. But I don't think we're going to go much higher. We're going to go up to about maybe 83, 84 for the day. And it's supposed to rain later in the afternoon, so I got to get the lawn mowed before 1 o'clock Eastern time. So I'm ready to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And by deft, graphic design placement or Providence, the contribute donate buttons are to the leftish of the chat room link, and that's how we pay our bills. So thank you. Thank you so much for that, truly. Well, Wink, here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently, well, it says 52, but I was just outside, and it's almost 60.
Yeah.
I know, this particular weather station is in a protected valley, apparently. Yeah. I'm going to have to fix that somehow. And we will be going up to a high of 96 today. No chance of rain. So I like to have like 10% chance of rain, just to kind of give you a little bit of hope. Just like possibly that 10% could muster a little bit of minerals from the sky.
Oh, yeah.
I like minerals from the sky. Oh, I had mentioned yesterday that through the weekend we were going to be in triple digits. They have downgraded that now, and it looks like we're just going to be in the low 90s. So
there you go.
I guess we'll just have to live with that disappointment.
Yeah. For real.
Okay. Well, winds are variable right now, but they will be later 5 to 10 miles out of the northwest, and tonight we will be having a low of 60. Perfect open window weather. Yeah,
right.
Say that fast 5 times. And winds will then be west out of the west northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Hey, weather from around the world is brought to you by weather stations from around the world.
Love it. Yep.
Yeah. People's personal weather stations that they purchased in any number of platforms and plugged them in and planted them somewhere in their property. Or maybe up on some public property, and they're just getting away with something.
That could be too, yeah.
Well, currently, it looks like London is experiencing 70 degrees and mostly cloudy. Paris is 70 and mostly cloudy. Rome is 86 and clear, and they are under a weather advisory, and I checked that out because that came up yesterday. So they are slated to have a high of 92 today, Wink. And their weather advisory is possible disruptions of service because of extreme heat. 92!
Yeah.
Boy, they have a different definition of extreme heat in Rome, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh. Maybe that was the only reason
extreme
why.
Heat here as well. It's near 21. 92 would be extreme heat for the most part. Yeah, we might see 2 90-degree days a year.
Maybe that was the reason I was the only one out on the sidewalk cafe in Rome.
Yeah.
Can I have my gelato out here? And they're looking at me like, stupid Americans. You don't eat cold drinks when things are going to melt, or cold dishes when they're going to melt.
Yeah.
I mean, the waiters didn't want to come outside. I'm like, what the hell? I had to go in and get my own coffee.
Yeah, What's up with that?
Yeah. I'm an American. Don't you know? Can't you tell? And they're going, yeah, we can tell.
Yeah.
All right. Kiev is 84 and clear. Kabul is 90 and clear. Let's see. Hong Kong is 76 and clear. Tokyo is 85 and mostly cloudy. Sydney is 50 and mostly cloudy. San Francisco 55 and partly cloudy. And New York is 84 and clear. So, see, they're
not
right
bad.
there. Not humid yet, right?
No, they don't have the sweltering weather yet.
Not sticky yet.
No.
I've been there when it was sticky.
Oh, it should be by now, but it's just been one of those weird years so far. We just really haven't had the combination.
I don't want to, give the false impression that Los Angeles, for instance, is like not sticky. Yeah, right. They're sticky too. And they also, like, unlike New York, they're like, if you don't add water, they're a desert.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, exactly.
So, there's lots of places that they just can't add water, and it's a desert.
Yeah.
So you got all that, like, gritty sand everywhere, in your teeth, in your eyes.
Yeah.
And then when it gets humid, that sticks to you.
Oh, you got to love that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll happen. That will happen. Okay, so that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations from around the world. Well, we are meeting up with Angela Marx today, and we have cross paths. And so we expect her for the last half. And these are the issues that we will be attending to today, and what issues they are. The Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos. Yeah. Eric Prince's sister. Wife to the Amway fortune. Oh, yeah, that pyramid scheme. Oh, yeah. Well, guess what, Wink? She's scheduled to meet with men's rights activists to discuss how better to dismantle Title IX, intimidate rape survivors, and dismiss domestic abuse allegations. It's a whole new world. It's almost like the Russians took over. Everything's backwards now.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of which, embedded in Junior's emails is a step-by-step guide how the Kremlin could contact Trump himself.
Ah, there you go.
And we'll go through that. And hackers have been stealing credit card numbers from Trump hotels and properties for almost 10 months this time. Yeah. All right. And we will be visiting with Angela Marx, also known as AngieInWAState, or as we like to say, always affectionately known as.
Exactly.
Yes. And we'll have more than just a political and world news roundup. Oh, my God. We'll be talking, I don't know, there's this crime family. We used to call it the Bush crime family. Wasn't that quaint? They were just blue bloods,
right? That's all.
Unlike a real crime family. All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar, and there's always more. On the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. His name is Wink. And this guy back over here on the West Coast, my name is Justice. And we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular, specific, and ever increasingly peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time. Because, well, who loves your baby? Yeah.
Exactly.
When it's all collapsing down around us, Wink, you can either choose, I don't know, being angry about it or loving each other. I choose to love each other.
There you go.
I do. So we might as well. Yeah, I don't know. There's more flat earthers out there than I always thought it was like sort of a joke, hyperbole.
Right.
But they actually believe this stuff. I don't know what to do, Link.
I don't know how you.
I guess. Well, no, just
first century.
Well,
how do you believe
I also
that?
think. Well, yeah. How do you believe that? It's like, well, I don't know how to explain it, other than just disrupting the social fabric, so there's always confusion and dissonance. I don't know if you want to get into that. How does a conspiracy like that work? I mean, how can a person wrap their head around and go, oh, yeah, the whole world has been brainwashed by some sort of, I don't know, Valis entity up in outer space, computers that have hooked up and we're in the Matrix.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Oh,
yeah. Hasn't anyone, like, sailed on the ocean? I mean, can you not perceive the curvature of the earth? I mean, can you not see the top of the mast of a sailboat disappear over the curvature? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yep. We've all seen
let
that.
Alone flying.
Yep.
Let alone flying. I mean, get up like 7 miles up in the air.
Yeah.
I mean,
5 would do it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It sounds like Russian active measures to me, but that's a whole other conspiracy theory in its own right. We don't have time for that. We got to talk about Betsy DeVos and what they're actually doing. Now, what I want to know is, if this guy does get kicked out of office for, I don't know, committing treason. Oh, and let me put the lie that I keep hearing, we're not at war with the Russians, so they can't be treason. It's immaterial whether we've declared war. They've declared war on us.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, if it was an ally, say like Israel, we have put people in jail for treason, for doing similar activities that the Trump mobbed up crime family has been doing. Just saying, okay? So what I want to know is if this guy does go to, I don't know, Leavenworth or any other federal facility that would hold a treasonous, I don't know. Are we going to let him go into exile? I don't think Paris is going to have him. He's not going to be able to get into Idi Amin's old digs. Well, he wouldn't want it anyway. He might. It's gold-plated enough, probably. But do we get to also get rid of people like, I don't know, Mike Pence, Betsy DeVos, Munchin, or whatever this guy's name is? Because aren't they in there to dismantle the administrative state? Or deconstruct, dismantle? I think so. But that's my rant. I'm curious. Don't we get to get rid of the organization that they brought in? We changed the dawn of the family, but we don't get rid of the tentacles and. Oh, one more thing, because there's another question out there, and that is how could these people commit treason? Win at any cost, and I might presume that when you're uber rich like that, and we've heard this before, they make their own nations. They're bigger than nations.
Right.
Right. And so they don't really need the nation that they're in until, I don't know, they've sucked it dry. What is that called, Wink? That's not a symbiotic relationship. That's a parasitical relationship. They don't have any alliances or allegiances or loyalties to the host. The host is just there as a vehicle in which to get what they want when they want to get it. And when it's all sucked dry, they go to another host and they do it there. So maybe these are parasites and we need to look at it that way. This isn't a symbiosis in which, we get rid of the poison part and the rest of it's not poison. It's all poison.
Yep.
Got to get every little bit of that tick out. Otherwise, you're going to get an infection. It's not going to be good. This article is by Casey Quinlan out of Think Progress. After months of receiving requests for meetings from advocates for sexual assault survivors, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos has finally decided to sit down with them. But she's also meeting with groups that are critical of Title IX guidance on campus rape. Some of these groups have histories of intimidating rape survivors and dismissing domestic abuse against women. It never happened. Or as they like to say, bitch deserved it.
Right.
I mean, she's inviting a fellow to sit at the table there and be asked questions about how better to address these terrible Title IX restrictions on our poor boys who have to put up with all of these terrible rape allegations that are false, false, false. Well, she has a guy up there who forgave the Ray Rice incident. Now, Ray Rice was a football player who was caught on a hotel elevator security camera beating the crap out of his girlfriend and knocked her out. And how was that forgiven? Says, well, it was wrong for him to hit her so hard where it knocked her out. Agreed. But if she hadn't been in his face making him angry to the point where he would hit her, in other words, bitch deserved it. Which I have to say goes into the Betsy DeVos, Amway, Eric Prince religiosity spectrum of beating your kids and your wife is your chattel is weird stuff, So these are the people that she's going to have up at the dais, because it's got to be fair and balanced, right?
Yeah.
You have the rape survivors and the domestic abuse survivors, and you got to bring in the perps. I mean, they have a story too. I mean, I don't know. Okay, thank you. Like I said, do we get to get rid of the rest of the parasitical tentacles that the parasite brought in? I would hope so. This is Judd Legum, editor-in-chief at Think Progress. A straight line from the Russian government to Donald Trump. Yep. Everybody's talking about Fredo and all that. I'm actually thinking maybe Jared. I don't know. This is hard. We want to do these Godfather, comparisons. Is Jared like Connie's husband? I don't know. Because it seems to me like they are throwing Junior under the bus.
Yeah, he's
and
tossed.
Kind of makes me think maybe Ivanka is Michael. So when Dad says he's a high quality person, Junior, what Dad says that his son is a high quality person, that's what you're told before they go for like a pretty short ride in the back of a limo. Come with me. Leave the emails, take the cannoli. I don't know. So I have heard, where has Ivanka been all in, all of this? And I'm like, has she been in a baptism? Because, that's when Michael had everything come down, remember? Solozzo got it. Oh, no, well, he got Solozzo, and that's how it all started. But, Mo Green and all the others, they got theirs during the baptism. Remember that? I do. Okay, in an apparent effort to preempt the New York Times, Donald Trump Jr. released a series of emails yesterday detailing his meeting with a Russian attorney who claimed to have damaging information on Hillary Clinton. And what was that damaging information? Yeah, they were doing politics against Bernie Sanders. An outrage! It's so unfair. According to the emails, the information was very high level and sensitive and part of Russian and its government support for Mr. Trump. But the full emails also detail a possible communications channel from the Kremlin directly to Donald Trump in the White House. Step 1. The Kremlin. The emails say the information on Clinton originated from the Russian government. They also refer to a meeting with the Crown Prosecutor of Russia, which is believed to be a reference to Yuri Sheka, one of Russia's most powerful people. Of course, there isn't a crown prosecutor. They don't call it that, which is a poor translation. I've heard, well, there's no such thing as a crown prosecutor. And I go, well, actually, the true translation is the Tsar prosecutor, meaning, it's of the most high royal standards. Excuse me. Okay. So that's Prosecutor General. When they say Crown Prosecutor, Prosecutor General Yuri Cheka. Step 2, Aris Agalarov. And who is that? The emails reveal that the Crown Prosecutor communicated the offer of damaging information about Hillary to Aris Agalarov, the Russian billionaire who sponsored Trump's 2013 Miss Universe competition in Moscow. That's probably where the P-tapes originated. Fancy that. Well, they got to get dirt on everybody. I wonder where they learned that. This is a chicken and egg thing. Did Hoover learn it from them, or did they learn it from Hoover? Edgar J.
Yeah, indeed.
And this fellow is also connected to Russian President Vladimir Putin, who presented the elder Agalarov with the Order of Honor, the same one that Tillerson got. Wow, small universe. Step 3, Emin Agalarov. And who is that? Well, he's a pop singer. That's right. And Aris's son. It always helps to be rich, to be a, pop singer, I think. According to the emails, Aris passed the info to the Russian government to Emin. And in an interview with Forbes, Emin claims to maintain regular contact with the Trump family. Ooh. And Trump even appeared in a music video with this guy. I have no business with any Russians ever in the history of my life. And he's in a music video with a Russian. Rod Goldstone. Boy, this guy. That's Emin's publicist and who also was involved in the Miss Universe competition. It was Goldstone who emailed Trump Jr. with the information about Emin. Step 5, Rona Graf. Graf is Trump's longtime assistant. When longtime friends and associates of Donald Trump want to reach him, they don't go to the White House. Instead, they call the woman who's been the gatekeeper at Trump Tower for a quarter of a century, Rona Graf. And that's reported by Politico in March. All right. Step 6. Oh, I'm sorry. In his emails to Trump Jr., Goldstone offered to pass the information directly to Trump Sr. through Graf, saying, I can also send this info to your father via Rhoda, Goldstone wrote. Step 6, Donald Trump. Trump has attempted to distance himself from Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya. A spokesman for Trump's personal lawyer said he was unaware of the meeting and did not attend it. Oh, really? But whether or not he knew about this particular meeting, the emails released by his son firmly established there was a relatively straightforward way for top officials in the Russian government to pass information to Trump. This is significant in light of Trump's repeated denials that he had no active connections to Russia or the Russian government. It's tick, 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 tick. Okay. He was on a tweet storm today, too. He's saying White House is working perfectly. And I say like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
The one where I posted, and thank you, David. People like that particular little clip I posted in reply to Donald Trump. God, I wish he would block me. Because I want to be part of that exclusive list, too, I feel really disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
Like the people, the progressives are, totally against America, and, Maddow is on there, and I'm not on it. I'm disappointed. Come on. But, yeah, I posted the little clip where the forklift hits the, stacks of shelves of merchandise and boxes in the warehouse, and all comes collapsing down like a well-oiled machine. It's coming all down. It's a house of cards. It truly is. I think they have a sort of like a sitcom almost like that about that. Yep, hackers have been stealing credit card numbers from Trump's hotels for months, about 10 months this time, because this is the third time in as many years that they've had to put up with this. I wonder why we didn't really hear about this very much during the election. Because isn't he supposed to be, one of the best, business minds that have ever, existed on the face of the planet? I mean, when the loan and level sands stretch far and wide, he's going to have even bigger, smaller hands, but even bigger broken trunk and legs out there in the lone and level sands, like Ozymandias, I think. Look upon my possessions in despair. Oh, this is by Abba Badare. out of the Washington Post. Guests at 14 properties, including hotels in Washington. That's New York, D.C., by the way. New York and Vancouver have had their credit card information exposed, marking the third time in as many years that a months-long security breach has affected customers of the chain of luxury hotels. Luxury hotels? I don't know. Overpriced monstrosities, maybe, but I wouldn't call them luxury. The Ritz in Paris, that's luxury. Let me tell you. You don't want to eat at a Trump hotel, but you never want to not eat at a Ritz if you have the chance. Just saying. Broaden one's horizons. The latest incidents occurred between August of 2016 and March of 2017, according to a notice on the company's website. Sorry. Those non-refundable golf initiation fees at our resorts. Well, apparently we have now another, we'll have to call it a non-refundable fee because you've been compromised and your bank account has now been drained. Thank you. Please stay with us again. Well, I don't know if it's that severe, but the website said that it included guest names, addresses, phone numbers, as well as credit card numbers and their expiration dates. Nice. The breach took place. They didn't have the last 4 digits of people's social security number. Maybe we can get it through the voting rolls. Let's try it. Oh, yeah. The breach took place on the systems of Sabre Hospitality Solutions, a reservation booking service used by Trump hotels, but they say they did not compromise the Trump hotel systems. Well, they didn't have to. They're the people that they have working there, you do what you do, right? Of course, they sent out the typical boilerplate apology, our misinformation is a matter we take very seriously. That's why we've allowed this somehow to happen every year for the last 3 years. Sorry. They don't even say sorry, actually. Yep. Comes less than a year after Trump International Hotels Management paid $50,000 in penalties to New York State for failing to notify customers about a security breach on their credit card numbers. Let's make this guy president. Give him the nuclear codes. Invite Lavrov and Kislyak into the Oval Office. Why not? As long as it keeps that witch out. Now, of course, I must say very quickly, the hotel industry has been very, very bereft in, really locking down security like this. It's not hard to get people's information. And why? Because profit margins. It's always about profit margins. We'll just leave our security systems open because we don't want to have to pay to keep them, secure. All right. Well, I think maybe that should be part of Yelp reviews too. How robust a particular hotel's security systems are on their credit card and other info. I used to, when I worked at that boutique bed and breakfast, it wasn't big. It was big enough. People came there. But you could tell when people were fishing for information and trolling, Right. Of course, there's also the concern, these men's rights activists, maybe someone's trying to get away and, they're trolling to find out who might be in a particular room or they're trying to figure out the room. And of course, if you know this person, you know what room they're in because they would have told you. You have to be diplomatic, but still. All right, let's get to our Gem Hightower break. We'll connect with Angela Marx, come back, go through the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar, and finish up with, we'll talk about Don Jr. and a few other things. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Excellent news, folks. Jobs are now plentiful. As the Associated Press put it, the U.S. job market has settled into a sweet spot of steadily solid growth. At long last, then, the American dream is back for working families, right? No. The AP article later admitted that the jobs market still is missing any, quote, broad acceleration in pay. In other words, you can find work, but don't expect to be paid. And forget about such luxuries as health coverage, pension, sick leave, vacation time, and having a regular schedule. These are not jobs, they're jobettes. Most are in service work, from fast food chains to nursing homes and car washes. Nearly all are poorly paid, temporary, and routinely exploitative. So many families have been in dire economic straits for so long that they're now having to take such onerous, one-sided terms of employment as those, which, ironically, increases the power of low-wage corporations. With hundreds of thousands of people scrambling at once to find jobs, the bosses can effectively conspire to hold pay levels down and get away with treating hires as disposable cogs in the corporate profit machine. Indeed, the phenomenally bloated profits they've been enjoying are largely extracted from the labor of these vulnerable workers they underpay. And in a double irony, corporations rationalize the obscene salaries and bonuses they give to top executives by pointing to those same profits the executives are taking out of the workers' paychecks. This is Jim Hightower saying this selfish, self-perpetuating expansion of inequality is no sweet spot of solid growth. It's the sign of a severely sick economy, and it will kill all hope of a democratic America unless we the people rise up to reject the plutocratic profiteers and politicians who are inflicting such deadly disparity on our society.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the after show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Angela Marx is along the Columbia River Gorge area on the West Coast. And our crew are the ethereal creatures, even though they are actual people who live in parts of America and around the world.
Yeah.
For our purposes, they are the ethereal creatures who reside on the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the after show, to span the globe, the solar system, out past the Oort cloud, out past all reasonable human understanding, because hyperbole be thy middle name.
Yeah.
And beyond even that.
Indeed.
Right. Hey, why go halfway?
Right.
Go all the way. Okay, so today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Co's Community Diary is facilitated by Gabe Ortiz. Now, he's been doing this. Ooh, there you go. He's been doing this on an interim basis, and of course, he's a front pager now as well. So, fairly busy fellow. And he opens up the diary or the calendar today with, do you have any trips planned? Do you have any trips planned? I know that you're not going to Netroots Nation this year.
No,
Are you going to go camping or anything like that?
I'm saving it up for next year. I'm not going very far this year, so yeah. Right. I'll be
Angie, you have anything organized to get away?
Not this year, but I'm selling my second lot and paying off my mortgage and my debt. So next year, I will definitely be making a trip to wherever they decide to hold Netroots Nation. Let's hope it's not some godforsaken hellhole where it's 125 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
Look. I mean, when I decided, well, gosh, do I really want to be in Atlanta in August? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Until they figure, this is what I always say, until they figure out a way of like making kudzu edible, I don't know if I want to be around that much kudzu. So it's scary. It's scary. It's scarier than the Attack of the Mushroom People, which was a very bad nightmare.
Nothing is scarier than the attack of the blackberries.
Well, there's that too.
Have you ever had blackberries anywhere where you lived?
Yeah, my sister, actually, we were telling a story about her falling in the middle of a briar patch, and how insanely difficult it was I was like 7 and she was 6, trying to get her out of that. We were up in a tree getting mistletoe, and she fell into it. That was fun. What happened with your blackberry?
I've got 3/4 of an acre here and 2 lots next to each other, and I've lived here about 30 years, and I've been fighting blackberries the whole time. I had the entire pasture where the blackberries exist tilled up with the farm tractor 3 years in a row. Thought I had gotten rid of them. They always come back, but this year I've given in. They're spread to about a fifth of the property now is covered in a giant patch of blackberry brambles, and I have broken down and bought in the crossbow. And hopefully next weekend there will be some poor sod out in my pasture spraying it to death with toxic poison because it's trying to eat my house. It can grow like a foot in a day. I have watched this stuff. It's insane.
No, I've watched. We have wineries throughout the region I live in, and so when they reclaim these properties, they have to dig pretty deep because the blackberry is almost like a rhizome. If you pull on it, it wants to shoot its roots out more.
Yes.
So the more you pull it, the more it grows. Right? So.
Well, the deal is it's a monoculture,
right?
Critter, right? You see a 50-acre plot of land, and it's got clumps of blackberries all over in that 50 acres. That is one giant plant. It will send runners out 20 to 50 feet underground and poke its head up and see if it's a good place to grow some more. So if you spray heavily enough on a section of the plant where it's nice and stable, a big section of it, it'll transmit that poison throughout the little runners underground and kill the entire plant all over that 50 acres.
Oh, that's
so.
My sister, like sometimes one doesn't think of the ramifications. My sister and brother-in-law, they live along Evans Creek here, and they had I don't know if it was necessarily blackberries, but it was a pretty old briar patch along the creek. Everybody else would call it a river, but we call it a creek. And so they took that out, and now the sides of their property where they took out the briars are collapsing, and then they have to pay to get a big old reinforcing wall to keep the riverbank.
It was keeping the
it was keeping the size of the riverbank in place because of its massive root system.
Well, the only thing that this bramble here is keeping in place is a cover for raccoons and rabbits to live in. But I have a castle of indoor-outdoor cats, so they keep bringing me trophies.
All right, I should get in on the rest of this. I should just mention really quickly in answer to Gabe Ortiz's question. I live in a actually pretty neat part of the state, so we don't have anything days of places to go to. Yeah, I'm not going to Paris or Corsica or any of the great trips that I would normally want to go on if I had the time and the funds. But we could just take day trips. I mean, I can go up to Crater Lake, and that's a day trip takes an hour maybe up there. I can go out to the coast, and that's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. Make that a day trip. So I could go to Shasta if I wanted to, and make that a day trip. So I'm fairly lucky, and so even though I don't have anything actually planned, the weekends are sort of open to do that.
You didn't mention the most fun thing to do where you live. go take one of those A-class rafting trips that only last 4 hours. They're fun, but they're not dangerous.
Yeah, I'm not taking my 80-year-old mom on those anymore. She went on a went on a rocket raft thing a few years ago, and that was pretty fun. But she was still.
I would not suggest taking your 80-year-old mom.
Yeah, no, but she did do that. I don't know, 10 years ago, and she kind of liked it. And it's not, I mean, I
used to have a friend that organized that every year. He took a bunch of buddies there, and then 6 months later they went up to Alaska and went fishing in Alaska because he had a place up there too. And this was a crowd of people that were in their 30s, 40s, 50s that were going to do this every year. So,
well, when I was executive chef for this fine dining yacht charter in the Bay Area, every year we took all the crew and mostly what our crew was the people that would come and serve on the boat, and of course there were, when I say boats, and they were college kids from the nearby universities and colleges and whatnot. So every year we went on a whitewater rafting camping trip and along the American River, and we called that like a bonding exercise.
Yeah, they do those on the road all the time.
Did a ropes course too. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Not getting me on a ropes course anymore. I don't think my joints could handle it. All right. I should mention here that real quickly, Colorado Community is having their potluck on July 16th. So that's coming up here in a couple of days at 1 p.m. at Colorado Tim's house. Colorado State Senator and major sponsor of the Healthcare Colorado Initiative, Dr. Irene Aguilar, will be there, along with State Representative Susan Lontine, Denver City Councilman Mike Flynn. So Cozumel, Colorado Tim to attend that event. Let's see here. Denver Cossacks, of course, will have their caffeinating liberally meet up on their usual fourth Saturday of the month at Common Grounds Coffee Shop. That's going to be July 22nd from 9 to noonish. And, of course, that's at the table by the piano. You should know that. Oh, yeah. And that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar, except for the fact that there is the Netroots Nation meetup. Oh, which it is. So, of course, Daily Coast Cheers and Cheers annual dinner Wednesday, August 9th, 5:30 p.m. White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, 270 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. And Cozumel, Navajo to reserve a seat at the table. And the Ask Me Anything Daily Coast about Daily Coast Caucus Thursday afternoon, which is Netroots Nation's in full swing at that point, August 10th, 2:30 p.m. in the Piedmont Room. All right, everything else will make up for tomorrow. That is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar for the 12th of July of 2017. Wow, we're right into the middle of summer practically.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Angie, speaking of the middle of summer, the Larson ice shelf, see there, it's totally detached now, and I don't know, maybe Louisiana will disappear. What do you think?
Well, I did a little more reading this morning on that, and it looks like 12% of the Larson Sea Shelf is now decamped. This is the third huge split in Antarctica in the last 20 years. You had one in 1995, then one in 2000. That was A, and then B, and this is Shelf C. It's about double the size of Luxembourg, or I read last week, I think about the size of Rhode Island, possibly.
Delaware,
it's quite a big chunk of ice. Not enough to raise sea levels anywhere. However, with
this
all of the shelf ice,
of things to come.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, here's the deal. These are chunks of ice that are connected to ice, which is partially on the land and partially in the water.
And it holds back
and what those?
Yeah,
they're actually ice dams. What they're doing is they're keeping those glaciers on top of the landmass in Antarctica, because once part of it's in the ocean, and the oceans are warming a little bit, even in Antarctica, that causes a lot more melt underneath and more chunks to break off. So the loss of 3 giant chunks on these 3 ice shelves on the western side of Antarctica are going to increase loss of glacier water on that section of the continent there, which could drastically increase more melt off of Antarctica over the next century. There's enough ice if just the ice on top of Antarctica were all to melt off, it would raise ocean levels 30 meters globally. That's 180 feet for you people that think in American language or American math, right?
Of course, it
180 feet. That would cover every city on every coastline, clear up to the mountain ridges. So, and we still have an American president and half of our political situation in this country who thinks that climate change isn't happening, that it's not real, it's some invented thing to agitate the masses. It still boggles to mind that these lunatics are in power of our entire government at all levels, from city and county councils to state houses to the federal government. They are in control of everything. 2/3 of everything has a Republican hind end sitting in the seat. And so what has that gotten us? Look at the news. Well, the Trump family, who we apparently have, the first time in history, we elected a family to the presidency of the United States. He brought his daughter to the G20 and let her sit in his seat while he was not there, instead of Rex Tillerson, who I think is an asinine fool, but he is the Secretary of State.
Yep.
His son has now given the New York Times his entire email chain, giving definite proof to the idea that they attempted to collude to commit espionage with a foreign government against the United States. We are absolutely living in crazy time. I can't believe that it's going to take another 6 months to a year probably before anything really happens, because what it's going to take is a huge backlash of people who don't like what's going on to get off of their couches, get registered, and actually vote next year in 2018. If we take 24 seats in the United States House, the Democrats will be in charge of the United States House. And you know what comes out of the United States House? U.S. budgets and bills of impeachment. So get ready. Next year is going to be fun.
Also, we have a census coming up.
Well, that's why it's so important that we get the House and that we get some of these state houses, because the reason the Republicans have been winning so much, just in the U.S. House, for instance, in 2016, there were 1 million more votes cast for Democratic candidates for U.S. House seats. We should have the majority. The reason that we don't is because of gerrymandering, the way that they carve out districts and make it easier for Republicans to get elected with less votes. I know it sounds like crazy math, but there is a diagram out there which it gives you 3 little showings of 12 boxes, and it shows you very clearly how easy it is to gerrymander a district so that with less votes you can take it for your party if you're the guys in charge of drawing those lines. So because the census happens in 2020, if we can get the majority of seats in enough state houses in 2020, when the census happens in 2021, when all the redistricting happens, maybe we can redraw some of those lines and get a more fair election process so the people who get the most votes win the most seats. That's how it should be in America, and it's not how it is today. And it's all because of gerrymandering.
I wanted to, we have so much that's, I believe, interconnected, everything from the Larson C ice shelf to Junior's emails, because they are interconnected. I just wanted to mention real quick with the Larson C shelf, calving, I think, or decalving, is I can't remember the actual term. Basically breaking off.
That's when the iceberg's already in the sea, a separate item, and then it calves and breaks into smaller pieces. This is just a detached ice shelf iceberg. Okay,
detached. Regardless, losing the glacier and exposing the dark landmass means less cosmic rays and UV and all that from the sun being reflected. And that's not good either. We may have 180 foot sea rise, but then our interior land masses can't support the wheat and the other grains that we would normally be able to feed ourselves with because of the increase in temperature, because that energy is not being reflected back out into space.
Well, history shows us how abruptly things can change, and how the butterfly theory, a butterfly flaps his wings somewhere in South America, and in China an entire rainforest dies, right? The unintended consequences of small acts build up, and they're For instance, in the time about 1,000 to 2,000 years before BC, right? The Euphrates River, where Iraq is today. Everybody take, in your mind's eye, think of what Iraq looks like today, a giant mishmash of damaged buildings and dry dirt and sand, and it's horrible, right, for the most part. 4,000 years ago, it was a paradise. South Central Asia there was a beautiful garden, but today it's a terrible desert area with, terrible living conditions, because the entire Earth is affected when things change. So if you change the temperature enough, it can change the amount of water available in one area versus another area. Places that were a great place to live can become desert areas or flooded out so bad nobody can survive there. And that's the uncertain future that we're getting with climate change, because they can kind of predict how much ice disappearing will cause sea level, ocean levels to rise, right? So that ocean shores change, the map changes of what's water and what's land. But those are just the beginning changes. They're not the real changes. The real changes are when deserts appear where there used to be an agricultural paradise, where aquifers disappear or sink, or the underground substrates that hold natural gas and petroleum get broken because of fractured land masses, because the disappearing weight of the ice shelf. Like Greenland has so much ice on it, they are afraid that if too much of it melts off, the volcanoes there will awaken in such a fury that it will change the atmosphere. I mean,
yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a caldera in Yellowstone start thinking maybe it wants to make a little statement too, and we don't want that.
We're actually overdue for that thing to go again. It's got a history of going about every 600,000 years, and we're kind of overdue, which is bad news for America, because if that thing let loose, the whole country, at least half the country would be about 2-3 feet deep in ash. So,
let me ask about Mitch McConnell now. I don't know what to think about all this. I know it's the Naomi Klein disaster capitalism shock doctrine model. I mean, but I can't help but think, is it possible that a majority of the GOP has like Russian money in their coffers, and the only thing that's protecting them is Citizens United? I mean, is this why they're behaving the way they are? To me, it doesn't make any sense, other than, I guess, maybe are they just craven, greedy bastards? I don't know. Have they been compromised with Russian money and campaign funds, and they're just, once the lid's off, I mean, it could decimate a party, right?
I would hazard a guess that that's kind of particular to the Trump cabal. Okay. And not so much the greater Republican Party as a whole. But the greater Republican Party as a whole is populated by a bunch of, assholes. These are people who have been for decades promoting the idea that Medicaid for poor people is a really bad idea, that poor people should just buckle up those bootstraps and take care of their own health. Which is just insane, crazy talk, especially in an era where the federal government is happy to use antitrust legislation that's 100 years old to break up giant corporations that get too much of one market, so there's not enough competition. But they're not willing to look at the nation as a whole and see that the least costly, best path forward for healthcare insurance is a single risk pool. I'm no longer talking about single payer, because that enrages people for some reason. I don't really understand it, because it's just words, but messaging matters. And for me, a single risk pool is an idea understandable to every American who's ever owned a car and had to buy car insurance, because the first time they do, the insurance agent explains to them about risk pools and why their insurance costs what it does. So if we had 320 million plus people in a single risk pool, that risk pool would have such power that it could negotiate the cost of paying for doctors and procedures and medications down to an amount that we could afford to pay, so that every person in this country could avail themselves of health care when it's needed.
Yep.
That is the fiscally conservative way to move forward. It boggles my mind that the Republican Party as a whole refuses to open their eyes and see that fact. That's not ideology.
Well, they don't want the poor having anything. That's their philosophy.
Yeah. I can't understand why Republicans do anything, because I don't understand how their brains work. they look at people suffering and they say, you're lazy. They don't see bad luck or bad genetics or,
they would rather have you roll over and die.
It's just a personal responsibility that you're poor and sick. It's
well, I think what we should do, I mean, the way the Republican mind works is, to free up some of that, oligarch money that they survive on, is you have to make insurance single payer seem exclusive. We're not putting it in. We're not putting. No, you can't call it that. You have to call it a club initiation dues. So you're not paying you're not paying taxes into a risk pool. You are paying dues into the club.
Well, I got to tell you, in regards to Mitch McConnell, I almost have pity for him, because here's a guy who has achieved the pinnacle of success outside of the White House for a politician. He is the majority leader of the United States Senate. He has gotten to that place by hammering the idea throughout the country for 8 years that they are going to repeal this horrible Obamacare that's killing everybody and rescue the nation from the evilness of it. Now he's a majority leader, and he can't even get a bill to the floor of the Senate to vote on because he can't get enough votes to pass it.
But he's going to keep the Senate in session. Is there going to be a mutiny of Republican senators saying, no, you're not taking my vacation away. Get out of here.
No, they're going to stay in session because he's desperate to get a vote. Because here's the thing. This is the way national politics works. It's all, sleight of hand, right? Illusion-y kind of. It doesn't matter if they actually kill Obamacare and get a new kind of system in, and they don't really care what kind of system is. He just needs to get a vote, just like Paul Ryan had to get a vote bill in the House, right? So they tried and they finally passed something, right? Okay. He just has to get a vote so that next year in 2018, he can go out to the Republican voters and say, we promised you that we would repeal it, and we had a vote, and we didn't get it done, but we're going to get it done, send us back again. That's the clincher right there. They don't have to win. They just have to get a vote. And he's going to keep coming back until he can get a vote, because he's got to keep trying to do it. But if he doesn't get it done before they break for August, he's in a really bad place, because in the federal government, their fiscal year starts on October 1st. They still don't have a budget bill for fiscal year 17 to 18. They have to get something, or they got to pass a continuing resolution, and they can't pass that without some help from the Democrats. So the rock and the hard place, between the rock and the hard place in August of 2017, Mitch McConnell.
I actually kind of feel sorry for him too, but on the other hand, it couldn't have happened to a more loathsome creature. So
that's right. Sometimes you get what you wish for.
Exactly. Okay, thanks, Angie. We'll take this up next week, and thank you for joining us today.
Yep. Oh, it was great talking to you guys. Have a great week. See you next Wednesday.
See ya. All right, folks, we better bug out of here. Of course, we got Hartman coming up about 6 minutes after the hour. Randy Rhodes, if you haven't checked it out, there's some homework. There's some more homework for you to do. Really. And you better buy a stinking podcast, really. And she comes up at 1 p.m. on the West Coast, 4 p.m. on the East Coast, and she is always on fire. So we'll listen to Nova Lima's Africa Land in the interim before Hartman. Stay listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. Why? Because sincerely from our hearts, who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink. I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.